Welcome to Oracles of Olympus, where we talk about everything nerdy, gaming, comics, movies, general nerd culture. I am GM Drew, and you can find me on Twitter at GMDrewR or Facebook, facebook.com/GMDrewR.
He just gave himself that title, just so everybody knows.
That's like giving yourself your own nickname. Like, hi, I'm Drew. People call me Chen.
Sure they do. Sure they
At
do.
least I didn't choose Ace.
Ace, we love you.
Well,
You just gave yourself your own nickname. I'm GM Drew.
I don't know who I am. I'm just CJ. I'm here to talk about Warhammer today and other random stuff as needed.
You're GM CJ now.
Right?
We can't all be GM.
I'm Warlord of the Wasteland, Kyle. You can find me at the Bullet Farm, or at the shop, or on the Facebook.
So bad.
How was I not supposed to say something about that?
God. GM Drew R.
Hello, I am Ryan, also known as the Incredible Wonder Boy.
See?
I had to give myself that one because shout out to the old Tenacious D. But yeah, I'm here to talk about whatever they want to talk about. So this is great.
Cool. We do want to give a couple shout outs to some of you that commented on iTunes, which we are out on right now. You can also find us on YouTube. Let me see here. Let me bring it up.
Yeah, come on iTunes.
That's awesome.
I didn't even know it was possible.
I didn't know you could comment on iTunes.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Eldestruct or 83 says this podcast is great. It really feels like going into the local comic shop and asking for gaming news without all the usual nerd rage.
Hashtag no nerd rage.
Always.
Full of great jokes
Always.
and great insight. Highly recommend. We cannot.
That is a 5 out of 7. That's the highest rating you can get.
Yeah.
5 out of 7.
Yeah.
Perfect score.
We can't say there will never be nerd rage though. Which
No, I guarantee I'll nerd rage about
maybe
something.
today.
I don't feel like super nerd ragey, but
I mean, I may have a little nerd rage about one of our funny topics.
sometimes I feel like nerd rage Hulk. Like the secret is I'm always nerd raging. I just hide it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one is from Maricus Amicus, who says, good podcast, good ramblings by good people. It's good.
Which is why our theme song should definitely be Ramble On by Led Zeppelin. I was thinking about that the other day.
I was kind of hoping for the wheels in the sky keep on turning.
I know you were.
So for those of you out there who don't know, every time he comes into the store, that's all he sings the entire time he's here.
Yeah, it's pretty frequent.
It's pretty outrageous.
I just like to live life large. What can I say?
So some changes from last week is because of the popularity of our podcast. We are going to do this weekly instead of every other week.
Yes.
So we like getting up early on Sunday mornings, especially Kyle.
Yeah, I super like it.
When you jump from
I'm a
like
morning
3
person.
to 5 listeners, you have to give the people what they want.
Exactly.
The show must go on.
There's a dull roar for more. So
There's at least a steady, slow clap.
a small smattering.
I picture us performing, if anyone's seen the Shia Lebouf video, with the
Yes.
where we're performing there and just one person stands up clapping. Like that's
And we love
exactly
that
how
one
I
I
view
mean,
it.
as
Yes.
Shia LaBeouf, you know,
Is
as
that
he's
how
my
you say his
spirit
name?
animal.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf.
I like to say Shia LaBeouf.
That's what I always say.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's actually
definitely
not
LaBeouf,
right. It's
but
LaBeouf.
I like LaBeouf
It's
better.
more French.
Sure. He's my spirit animal, so I always love that video. Like,
Hunting people through the woods.
yeah, right. And
Running
just,
on all fours.
Actual
Yeah.
cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
coming at you with a knife, kind of. That's kind of my
Normal
my,
Tuesday night Shia
normal
LaBeouf.
Tuesday night.
Dude, he'll give you that shy surprise.
Shia surprise.
Do you remember the time he came through Cheyenne? Mm-hmm. That was kind of cool. He's like,
He literally
I wanna go to a,
hitchhiked
yeah, he's
through
like, I
Cheyenne.
want to go to a gym with somebody because I feel like I need a shower.
Yep. And then he like stood at a loafing jug and did selfies with people.
Yeah,
God, we love. If you're listening, we love you, Shia LaBeouf.
you're my spirit animal. Please come
Dude,
be
if
on
we
our
could
podcast.
get like anyone that we mention randomly, like in the first episode you were talking about anyone from Forge World, please, please.
We'll get like some of the Forge World janitorial staff.
Yeah.
Like
You will be the
just
star of our
actually,
show.
I clean up after all the other folks at Forge World, mostly mopping floors and wiping piss off the toilets.
And they're like, hey man, welcome in. You're our hero.
Also-
everyday hero.
Right.
Shia LaBeouf, we will do an entire special about you if you come to visit us. That's a pledge
yes.
now.
From early years on.
Yeah.
I would wear at least one Shia LaBeouf paper mache mask for the entire time.
We have to get the video set up for that one.
We would definitely do video. If Shia LaBeouf comes, we'll do video.
Yeah.
It'll be a video.
But that's it. That's the only way we'll do video ever.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have to look presentable.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages and talking about all things gaming.
What are our messages?
They're coming. And we're back.
See, but you didn't do the underhand one.
Yeah, you got to do the
See, in
underhand.
Wayne's World, when you do the countdown, it's 5, 4.
Welcome back,
There's no
viewers.
pleasing.
Yeah.
The underhand one. You get,
We're
the
trying to
underhand
get
one is how I know
GM Drew to actually give us the proper
Yeah.
countdown. So we know we're on, because I just had solid gold that everyone missed because we weren't recording.
Yeah. Good job, GM Drew.
Yep, no problem.
an experienced game master with crafted experience for their players that really just made things feel, natural and smooth. And I'm just saying, if you don't do the silent countdown, I don't know when to start talking.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so let's talk miniatures.
Let's talk miniatures. Well, mine's a little longer. Does anybody else have anything they want to mention on miniatures?
Yeah, I was going to talk about what's coming out next week.
Go ahead.
And what came out this week. So we got the first half of the new Saucy Nurgle release this week. We got our Greater Unclean one. We got the weird mouth trumpety Nurgle.
Like
Herald
elephant
guy.
trunk.
Sloppity
giant-
Bile Piper.
No, Sloppity
Sloppy
Bile
Piper's next week.
He's next week.
He's awesome.
And I think he's my hero.
yeah.
Yes.
Next week we get some more stuff for Demons of Nurgle, as well as for the Age of Sigmar Nurgle army, the Maggotkin. But we get the Beast of Nurgle with its sweet intestinal Medusa hair. I 5 high fives for whoever came up with that idea.
Which one?
The actual the Beast of Nurgle with
Oh yeah, and he's waving at you, which
Yeah, I
is
know.
awesome.
My favorite
just
one.
so friendly.
My favorite ones where his eyes are bulging out of his head, and he's super happy.
Right?
He's like, yeah.
So yeah, we get our Beast of Nurgle. We get the Pusgoyle Blight Lords, which are the Blight Kings on giant bloat fly. And that kit makes the Blight Lords as well as a Blight Lord character.
They're appropriately disgusting.
They're pretty horrific. We also get the Lord of Blights. That's the dude with severed heads on a stick that he gets to toss around like I guess a hot potato to other enemy units and things like that. It's like a doo-doo smelling hot potato. And of course we get Sloppity Bile Piper.
God, I love
which is
Sloppity Bile
the
Piper.
best thing Games Workshop has ever done with his dancing Nurgling. And I was thinking about all the new Nurglings that are coming out with all these characters. Make me want to have an entire Nurgling themed display board with Warlord Nurgling and Sassy Nurgling and Dancing Nurgling and Couch Potato Nurgling. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool looking dudes coming out. So that definitely is something that I'm looking forward to.
Well, I know, Ryan, you mentioned to me you were thinking about maybe building the Maggotkin. What's your thoughts? What attracted you to him?
At first, I was kind of opposed because I do play a lot of Nurgle in 40k, but
Was it Sloppity Bile Piper?
He
helped.
Sloppity Bile Piper is the hero we need. No, I was really impressed with the weapons on the Maggotkin. A lot of them do quite a bit of damage. If they touch you, they're taking out groups of people.
Well, and I know we had one of our regulars, Curtis, who's now crossed the pond. When I used to play against his Blight Kings, when they would do these exploding attacks. Do you remember how that worked?
I don't. I remember the Blight Kings just always being the thing that I wanted to kill first.
Yes, you want to kill the Blight Kings first, but don't quote me on anybody on this or count this as the gospel. But they had some kind of ability where, on a 6 to hit, they'd explode an extra D6 attacks or something. But I remember them being particularly brutal. And I've talked to a couple folks that have been looking at them, and everyone seems fairly impressed with the book, what it can do, and that it can be a very solid force in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be popular. I think we'll probably see a couple people start them for the Winter Grow League that we're kicking off next Thursday. So
Absolutely.
It doesn't hurt that they have amazing models, and they have a new sweet tree.
Yeah, the
Feculent Gnarl.
that sweet tree.
Yep.
The poo tree.
The doo-doo tree, right? It like bears
And then
the
Hordicus Limex can just like plant them, which is amazing.
Yeah, he runs the shit garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan that they gave you the ability to literally just plant doo-doo trees all over the place.
Yes.
I really want to plant one in like a Sylvaneth Wildwood. Or basically just bringing down the property value of all of the Sylvaneth woods.
It's like the Nurglings are like the trailer trash moving into your
Yeah, right.
neighborhood
Like it's
and
basically
just
like
destroying property.
Right. Yeah.
values.
Across the street, there's a brand new trailer court. Like, yay!
And for
that's
the
gonna
elves,
look
it's like a
great.
brand new gilded Starbucks there. You know, it's
Right,
like,
yeah.
I view the Sylvaneth as like super hoity-toity, like Beverly Hills type people.
See, I feel like they're definitely like stinky patchouli like hipsters.
Oh, you're gonna
like-
go hipsters, not
Yeah, like they were
classy.
doing trees before they were cool. Like
I guess that's a valid
now Nurgle's
point.
getting in on the whole tree market,
and it
if you
really
will.
pisses them off.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we were doing this back before other people did it.
I find though like the Sylvaneth are the like housing developers, like just beautiful sprawling suburbs, and then the Nurgle trees are basically like the cheap crap flip homes that they that they're just like churning out like
oh wow,
like,
aluminum siding. That's
Yeah.
really pretty.
and they don't actually put much
Never has
effort.
to be painted.
They're like,
Right.
it's got serious curb appeal. Like,
You know, like the funny thing is though, like the feculent gnarl maw brings down property value in Age of Sigmar with the Sylvaneth Wildwoods, but I think in 40k it actually increases property value.
yeah.
It does.
Like, oh, this is such a nice addition to the neighborhood. Now all of our buildings built of the 1,000 skulls of martyrs would be totally awesome looking. We'll have a place to hang skull swings.
And I just view this tree like spitting skulls out randomly, and someone's just like, "Oh, this is perfect for my mantle."
right? I needed to fix the bathroom. Like, yeah, you know, like 5 more skulls. Like, oh, now we can build a breakfast nook. This is going to make life here so much better. You really have to look at the bright side of like a chaos incursion when you live in 40k because everything's super grim and shitty all the time.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Is a Chaos Incursion actually grimmer than just Imperial Life?
I don't know. I feel like Imperial Life is super grim if you're like a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you, like, you never have a good day as a real estate agent
No.
in 40k. Like, oh yeah, well, you can see the neighborhood got invaded again last week by
Got blown up.
orc incursion. So there's some spores, but don't mind those. Those will clear off eventually. Let me take you over here and show you. We have a 2-car garage. You can only really put 1 car in it now because the other side's caved in. Of course, the entire walkway to the house was lined with skulls. Good news is, with all the invasions, there's never a
I
shortage
can
of
imagine
decorative skulls.
a real estate agent in 40k in a hive city, like just pointing out like 6 identical, like single room, like leaky ceiling, rust everywhere, rats in the corners. Like, I would go with this one because it's more interior, so you're gonna get less of those, swamp winds coming up the side and poison you.
Well, as you can see, Unit 223487A is actually slightly different because it's the end unit. It actually has a corner window, and that increases the value tenfold.
I mean, it's really priceless. I
Yeah.
mean, I realize it's only smog clouds out the window, but I tell you what, on a romantic evening with the other woman that's assigned to live with you, you can have a really nice ambient light coming through this window.
I mean, this would really light up your dinner of nutrient paste and recycled water. That'll be just delicious. I mean, the ambiance here is going to be fantastic.
So what do you think? You want to close this deal?
Yeah, I mean, these units are priced to move.
What do I got to do to get you in this unit today?
It's so good, dude.
Our-
I love how shitty and grimdark 40k is. It makes me so happy.
Let's talk about Chaos Demons.
Yeah, I mean, let's on a brighter note, right? Let's talk
On a
about
brighter
demons.
note, let's talk about demons. I am lucky enough to have the book in hand with me. That's because it released yesterday, not
Yeah,
because
right.
we're
That's
actually cool.
not that we're cool and we get them early.
No, that's because it came out yesterday.
Yeah.
So, I wish we had it early, but we're not that cool. So Games Workshop, if you're listening, if you send these to us early, we will give meaningful reviews to all of the product.
Yeah, like all 10 people listening will know what's up.
Yes.
Hit us up,
At
GW.
least days before it happens.
You got our
PM
number.
PM GM Drew. So
Shut up.
Shut up.
This makes me so happy.
Okay, so I have gone through the Demon book, and I think it's actually got a lot of really solid options. A couple things I wanted to point out, kind of some highlights. I mean, obviously, I think the Nurgle's getting a little, maybe just a smidge more love than some of the other demons, but I think that's because they're getting the new models. It's kind of the season of Nurgle. I'll be honest.
It goes along with flu season. Like, everybody's sick right now.
It does. Everyone is sick. However, I will mention, I think Slaanesh is actually not that bad. Its abilities to be fast, be able to run, be able to get into combat are just incredible. Everyone's smirking at me. What's the...
Slaanesh is not that bad. It's not that bad, guys.
I mean, isn't that sad when I'm like, it's really not bad anymore?
CJ gives it a solid not bad.
I give it a
Like
solid
passable
not bad.
transvestite. Like a passable transvestite.
I used to be an all...
even tell. Like, you couldn't
Be like,
tell.
no, I mean, I was definitely convinced.
I am a recovering Slaanesh god person, so I'm kind of...
person?
Yeah, well,
Is that
I was always a
demigod?
Slaanesh guy, and now I'm kind of recovering and moving to Zinch a little bit,
Sure.
because Thousand Suns are
One
awesome.
too many.
I love
frivolous
losing
parties.
2 out of 3 games.
I love losing.
So I
2 out of 3
love
games.
playing Thousand
That's
Suns.
yeah, right. Thousand Suns that's where it's at. Like, if you want to get on board with that losing and getting wrecked life, Thousand Suns are the only
Thousand
for you.
Suns.
Like,
if
do you want to pay twice what a normal Marine player pays for a slightly better dude?
Yep. Do you
Thousand
like
Suns.
31 points for a dude with a flamer? That's
Yeah, watch out, flamethrower. That's another 7 points for a dude. Like, what the hell?
So it's the fastest way to disappointment.
Oh, yeah.
But all that aside, I actually do really love them. So I kind of focused in on the Zinch demons. Let's see, I almost said Slaanesh there. On the Zinch demons a little bit. And I'll be honest, they seem kind of meh.
That's the Zinch way.
It's a little meh.
the Zinch we know
There are
and
a
love.
couple notable standouts I thought I'd point out. I actually think Krios Fate Weaver is going to be pretty freaking cool.
Kairos Fate Weaver, you said.
I say Krios.
Well, that is
Well,
just
there's
not
not
how it is
even a-
spelled.
There's not even an R in the first half of that word.
I just pick a name and roll with it.
He's not like...
Which I realize is hypocritical, me correcting people that say custodies, but that's how I,
I
live.
mean, I'm not going to lie.
In my mind, I'm never wrong. So maybe a sociopath. I don't know. The GM Drew's giving me I got to wrap it up quick. So let me focus this in, everybody.
Wrap it up, light just came on.
The light's coming on. We're running out of time. We got to get back to our sponsors' messages.
Snacky Smalls.
Brought to you by Charleston Chew.
This podcast is brought to you by Butterscotch. Butterscotch, the candy your grandmother loves.
Get yourself a nondescript bowl full.
So
There's no actual branding. It's just fucking butterscotch.
No, yeah.
People know.
So since it's in
And Werther's
contention, we'll just
original.
call him K Fate Weaver. So K Fate Weaver, if he's your army's
Fate
war,
Weaver.
K Fate Weaver, he gives your army
K-Fed
that's
now?
like his
K-Fab.
like cool new trendy name.
K-Fate.
Because now K-Fate listens to like the Jonas Brothers.
Yes.
And T Swizzy.
and T Swizzy
Yeah.
and Katy Perry.
Yeah, lots of Katy Perry.
Lots of Katy Perry. I love Katy Perry.
You have an unhealthy obsession.
And T Swift. I'm sorry, I work in prison.
T-Swizzy.
I'm weird. Let's see.
I don't know whether to be worried for those prisoners.
What
So
can
tell
you
us
say?
about K-Fate.
I was about to go on a T Swift thing, but we'll keep this focused because we've been so good at focusing it so far.
Yeah, we're champs at that.
So K-Fate, he has Foretell, which gives you an additional D3 command points if he's your warlord.
It's also
That's
the
pretty
name
cool.
of his totally sweet new single, which is definitely fire. So it's fantastic.
He also has a 4-up invo because he's K-Fate. And he has the Staff of Tomorrow as his melee weapon, which is actually pretty good. And it used to be he was just garbage in Assault, if you remember. He was just terrible. He had like 2 attacks
Yeah,
and
he's
did nothing.
a giant two-headed bird. It's not
Yeah. Now he's actually not bad. So he's only hitting on a 3-up, but when he's at his full wounds, which is his top profile is 9 to 16 wounds, he has 5 attacks hitting on 3s. They're going to be at a strength of 8, minus 3 AP, D6 damage, which I think is actually not bad. I mean, he goes-
Zinch, a marginally less terrible demon. For
he'll smack something to death, and when he slays a character with this weapon, you can set up a spawn with 1 inch.
Ooh.
Staff Tomorrow.
Ooh, a spawn. You gotta buy those spawns.
I know we're about out of time, but I do have to give a shout out to my boy the Changeling, because I actually think he's pretty cool. And here's why. So I'll be honest, I read him the first time, I was like, this is stupid, this is awful. And then I read it a second time, I was like, actually, it's really good. So that kind of challenges my ability to read, I understand that, but it took a little bit to process. So his stat line profile is not that great. He's only got 2 attacks. He's only got a 6-up save. So you might be wondering to yourself, CJ, why is the Changeling actually the boss? Here is why. Because he has a special rule called Formless Horror that I'll just read it to you. When the Changeling fights, you can choose an enemy infantry model within 1 inch of it. The Changeling has that model's weapon skill, strength, toughness, and attacks until the end of the phase. In addition, he has the Trickster's Staff, that when he's fighting, he can choose an infantry model within 1 inch of it, and he gains their weapon profile. So if you think about that, all of a sudden the Changeling can just take over a Chaos Lord's profile, and he's fighting you with this sweet demon sword, or maybe he's battling a Space Marine, and he takes all of their abilities and gets the Relic Blade. That's actually pretty cool.
I mean, it's it's certainly out of the norm for Tzeentch. I feel like normally Tzeentch is kind of like the no, not the face kind of strategy when you get into hand-to-hand combat. I mean, that does make him not terrible. Like, it's definitely interesting.
He also gives friendly Tzeentch demons within 9 inches, essentially a 6-up, disgusting, really resilient. On a 6-up, they ignore wound. So, so I think he's only 5 power. So I think he's actually not bad. But I just have daydreams of like taking over the profile of another Primarch or something and just beating them to death with their own weapon with the Changeling. So that in itself is pretty awesome. GM Drew's giving me the hand sign to wrap this up. So we're going to move on, everybody. I just have a lot to say.
We like Warhammer.
I'm a recovering
God.
So let's talk about board games now. You guys seem so excited.
What's
Crickets.
a board game?
So, finally, Stuffed Fables is coming to the shelves on February 1st. And Stuffed Fables is Plaid Hat Games' new Mice and Mystics.
I don't understand anything you just said.
I know. So, Mice and Mystics was like you're a cute little mouse going through a castle and
Viciously murdering cockroaches whilst trying not to also get viciously murdered by a cat.
yeah.
That's the premise of the game. Like, you're a bunch of Selenia, the pickle man. That's like the whole premise of the game is like for Mice and Mystics is you're a group of valiant knights who've been cursed by an evil wizard and turned into mice. Why he didn't just then kill you, I don't know. Like, there's some sort of weird disconnect in my mind between like, boom, you're a mouse, and then I guess when you just you run away or something. Because like if I was gonna curse you and turn you into a mouse, I'd then proceed to step on you, like. Because I imagine the disconnect between, like, I was just a human and now I'm a mouse. There's got to be like a holy shit moment where you're just freaking out and crapping your pants.
Yeah, I can't remember how that
I would definitely curb stomp those mice.
So you think the mice just like run into corners and that wizard is like, curses, I
Yeah,
can't
he's like,
catch
oh,
them.
damn it, I guess I'll have to go buy a cat now. I don't know. So, like, that's the whole premise to it, though, right? Like, you're turning into mice and you're taking back the castle. From the wizards, so you had to run around like kill bugs and try not to get eaten by a cat, and then eventually get turned back into people, and then you do straight murders to that wizard. Yeah. So like most childhood fairy tale games, yeah, you'll be murdering that cat too because you'll be pissed by the end of this game. Like most childhood fairy tale games, it has a really grim ending to it. Like it just actually ends in real murder.
Well, they have like a grim. Every kid's story seems to have a grim beginning too. Like one of their parents die. Mm-hmm. Or both.
Right. If it's a Disney movie, it's generally
every
both.
Disney movie.
Yeah. It's because Disney hates parents.
Anyway, Stuffed Fables is in that same vein in that you play stuffed animals that are protecting the little girl who's sleeping. And it's kind of a cool concept because they have the rule book is actually the board that you play on, and you turn the pages and you take the miniatures and go around the story that way. So my daughter, who's 10, is really looking forward to it, and I am, to be honest, as well. So
conceptually, it does sound pretty cool.
It does actually sound fun. Yeah,
I like the idea of the board being like a fairy tale book. That's actually it's pretty rad.
So I also wanted to talk about a couple Kickstarters that have piqued my interest. One of them is called Western Legends, and it's yeah.
Can you be a gunslinger?
You can be either
I'm in. I don't care if the game sucks, I'm in.
A gunslinger or a marshal. And the cool thing about this is it's open world. So it's a campaign that you can go and do anything you want to do and collect points.
So is this a board game or an RPG?
It's a board game.
How is it open?
Yeah.
What happens when you hit the edge of the board? Is it like when you hit the edge of the flat Earth?
Yeah,
Just
the
kinda look
forces
over.
of nature
It's an
tear
ice
you
wall.
apart.
You can't get over the ice wall. NASA guards it with machine guns.
NASA guards it with machine guns.
An antique
So it
satellite.
sounds really cool. I'm a real big fan of Red Dead Redemption, and it
Yeah.
kind of echoes stuff like that.
That's
So-
awesome.
So look for that one. It's actually going on right now, and will end on the 28th of January. And also, there is a new one from Cool Mini or Not called Hate, and you actually play a tribe that this.
I thought you were
game
going to say this is like a Nazi game, and like you're building the Nazi party
No,
or something.
it's
Right,
dystopian future.
It's the new alt-right board game. Like, you go to protests and beat people up, and mace them and shit.
It's pretty close. It's a
Oh,
dystopian
okay.
future,
Okay.
and each player is a tribe of some sort, and
Okay.
it's for mature audiences. So there's torture in it.
Good God.
Yep, there's murder.
Okay.
So anything by Simon's going to have great miniatures as well. So
I am lighting.
Like,
up
are you
like-
playing the
Can we
tribes
just- can
battling
we take,
against
like-
this dystopian future, or what?
you're playing against each other, trying to take over,
I was going to say, can I play the government that's trying to oppress these tribes?
possibly.
Can we take like 1 second and like, so Cool Mini or Not, they abbreviate their name Simon, and why? Why? Like, I get it. It was either Simon or Come On, and neither of those were great options. But like, why not just be like Cool Mini, like CM or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Like, you could have
it's
just
true.
not been Simon. I don't know. I mean, like, literally every time I hear it, the 12-year-old inside me is like, like
Simon,
Steven,
man.
Simon, what's the
They do
Navy
make- they
perspective
do
on
make
this, Ryan?
fucking great
No, what?
They do. So, in the vein of like Zombicide and what other games have they done? Massive Darkness,
Blood
and-
Rage. They've done a ton of stuff.
So-
Cool Mini or Not. Basically, if it's a good game and it's not Fantasy Flight, it's Cool Mini or Not. Like that is
Right now,
that
yes,
is
that's
pretty much
true.
it, right? Like, it's Cool Mini or Not is basically the one company making really kick-ass games that isn't owned by Asmodee. So please don't get bought by Asmodee.
Can we just touch on this board game though? Like, there's torture and murder in a board
I mean,
game.
like, this is definitely my jam. This is a board game.
I'm excited. Like, I'm
It's like
waiting.
waste-
What a
Wasteland
difference
game.
going from like stuffed animals protecting a little girl sleeping to this board
to
game.
hate
Well,
the
we
board
started
game.
with demons.
Yeah.
Then we went to stuffed animals protecting a little girl, which stuffed animals are alive. That's kind of demonic, right?
I guess it is.
Or
if I
it's
came
just
up with a
Toy
Chaos
Story.
Demon Army protecting a little girl sleeping, would that make it cooler and cuter?
I guess so. Is Toy Story demonic then? Right? Like, is
that a
Woody
story?
possessed by a demon?
Yeah, is that like a story of like 100 demon
generally,
possessed toys trying to
When
get
toys come to
around?
life and interact with people, they're usually horror movies in our society.
It's true.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Although I do really like. Do you remember that? What was it? The Indian in the cupboard, like where the kid puts the little toy
It is
soldiers.
the Indian in the cupboard.
Hey, hold on. In
Yeah.
the Indian in the cupboard, the first thing the cowboy does is he shoots the kid.
He does.
Like, he's like, ha
He just like sees a brand new large animal. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to do the only thing I know how to do out here on the plains. That's murder all of this animal.
Yep.
Like,
and then skin it and sell it.
leave the rotting meat in the hot summer sun."
Indeed.
Absolutely. And I mean, as a nerdy kid, that cupboard was just my ultimate thing. Like, I was like, I want to bring my guard army to life. Yeah.
No, because they'd be like, what is this?
I might
heresy?"
hesitate-
Aberrant mutant and firing.
I might
terrible
hesitate
guns.
bringing the commissar to life, but
Yeah.
yeah.
He's definitely killing everyone for having seen a mutant.
That's very true. He
just
needs to
walk-
maintain visual purity.
Right?
He's walking through the regimental lines, just swathing people down. Do not look.
It's for your own good. Stop asking questions.
The Emperor wills this.
What else do we have in board games?
We have. So Kyle and I were talking earlier offline about how many games are being released in the next year. I watched a couple of YouTube videos. I watch the Dice Tower pretty regularly, and I watch Man vs. Meeple, and they all did a most anticipated games for 2018, and it was interesting. The Man vs. Meeple had 4 people on their video, and the Dice Tower had 3, and they counted down their top 10 on the Dice Tower and top 5 on Meeple. And what I found interesting is, so that's 5 times 4, 20, 50 games, and hardly any of them crossed over. There was maybe 2 or 3. The top one being, of course, a legacy game, which we talked about last week.
Legacy.
But the number of games that are coming out, I think Kyle and I were talking about. There's one every day, a new board game.
For sure, last year there was 360 something board games released last year alone. So that is basically, not that it literally comes out every single day, but there is essentially a board game per day of the year last year, and I imagine this year is going to be the same or more.
Sure, and it's a matter of what do you choose? I mean.
I think that's a good question, right? Like, I feel like on some level, the board game market is there's like so much boom in board games in general. Like over the past 10 years, have become so much more mainstream.
And it's super flooded.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like that's also the problem, right? So like everybody sees this as kind of like the time to get in on board games. So the market is almost overcrowded now. And there's I feel like some level of analysis paralysis where you're like, what the hell game do I choose? Like, what do I buy? What do I play?
Yeah.
And I feel like this gives, from a business standpoint, this gives people like Simon or
every time, right? Like,
or Asmodee a huge advantage, because if you're a small company, how do you break through kind of all of the noise of all of these games coming out? However, if I'm Asmodee, and I can tell you this from Kyle and I's perspective, if we're a retailer and we show up at an event and Asmodee is pushing this board game like this is what you want to play,
right,
we're going to notice
and
that.
they've got like an army of dudes like basically demoing this game. Like, look at all these kick-ass miniatures and tokens, because you know it's a Fantasy Flight game.
Yeah,
anyway.
so you're going to
like,
drown
here's
in
a
tokens.
box with like 400 tokens. Like it's 18
It's like,
models.
it's like, hold on,
loves
everybody, I got to
bits.
find the zombie token. There's only one out
Yeah,
of these
right. Like,
380.
I need to actually make an organizer for this game.
Hey, I may or may not do that.
Right.
Foam
Yeah.
core and hot glue. is
Foam
my
core
friend.
organizers. I mean, you kind of have to make organizers at this
You
point.
do.
There's
But
just
the
so many
point
pieces.
is, like, the main companies can drive what games people are going to put into a store. So they have such an advantage, I think, over the little game.
Yeah, they
publishers
absolutely do.
right
I mean,
now.
if you
And
look
they're
at
not always the best.
And they're
Right.
not always the
They're
best.
not,
Yeah.
but if you looked at like, you know, if you broke down our stock, like just here in the store in board games, I would guarantee you that 2/3 of it comes from Asmodee. Like
Yes.
they're basically like, you know, it doesn't hurt that they bought pretty much everything, but they're basically making the majority of board games on people's shelves, and I think then, you know, you get some CMON games out there because they're good, and then you have like one or two other smaller independent games, you know, like Scythe and Charterstone. I think is not by Asmodee, but it might be. Who knows? It probably is. The fact that I don't
Somewhere
know,
down the line.
right? The fact that I don't know who makes it means it's probably Asmodee.
If you randomly select 4 board games off a shelf, half are probably from Asmodee.
yeah, at least.
Or one of their subsidiaries.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's a big deal, right? So I mean, obviously you get like Kickstarter, right? Is probably how a lot of the smaller guys kind of try and get onto the market, because we actually had a super brand new board game demoed here in the store all day yesterday,
Yes.
which is called Othin. We had folks.
People
playing-
really liked it.
Yeah, people loved it. We had folks playing Othin for like almost 10 hours straight yesterday.
Yeah.
We had a lot of folks come through and check it out, but like it's tough, right? Because if you're in the position of the guys, you know, who make Othin, and I'm sorry, I don't recall your first name. I want to say it was Jason, but I apologize. But if you're in that same position as the creators of Othin, you know, it's tough, right? Like to get that game out there and on the market, you kind of have to work a lot harder, especially when you're competing against these really large conglomerate companies like Asmodee, where it's just they've got so many people just shoveling money onto the advertising fire. And
an interesting phenomenon I want to point out is that, to me, it's interesting that Games Workshop is trying to enter the board game market, right? They see this as a market they want to get into, but I think they have a problem, right? And that problem is that they have a very difficult time getting out of the idea of being a miniatures company and changing that perception among their audience.
Right.
Because they came out, for example, Shadespire. It's a great board game. However, everyone just immediately looked at it, that's a minis guy, and was like, cool, what could I use these models for in Age of Sigmar?
Right.
And the board game guys are like, cool, they made another game for minis guys to get minis out. Like,
Yeah.
and I think they somewhat set themselves up for that a little bit with games like Betrayal of Calth and Battle of Prospero, which
Right.
no one ever really bought. I never once saw those played as the board game, ever.
Right.
But everybody bought because the minis were awesome.
right, I think, you know, it's
And
interesting.
I think they're having a hard time getting out of that.
It's interesting to you say that, because like if you look at now, you look at like Fantasy Flight, who's now trying to kind of break more into the miniature scene, and it's like Legion, and a lot of like our hardcore minis guys like look at Star Wars Legion and they go, oh, it's a board game, because they're used to Fantasy Flight putting out board games, and then you get like a lot of your board games guys are like, ooh, is this a mini game? I don't know. Like, it's interesting. Like after that, yeah, exactly, right. It really just goes to show that they never should have split Fantasy Flight and GW, because they were a good match for each other.
They were a match made.
You could get great GW board games with their property from people who had more marketing and design experience making board games, and then you just that basically was what they were doing. They didn't worry about making miniature games. So
well, what's interesting, I mean, because like I said, Shadespire, if you haven't played it, it actually is a really great game.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it is available at Olympus Games and Comics. But it is a really good game that has got a lot of great interactions. You can tell they put a lot of thought into it. They clearly play tested it, balanced it, and designed it to be a board game, not a box giving you miniatures. That was clearly the intent behind it. But they just struggled to break out of that. And what did I do? I bought some of it and was like, cool, these are going to be great in my Age of Sigmar armies. And I mean, I have a hard time getting out of that.
So, just real quick plug to our shop here. We do have a board game showcase every other Tuesday, and it's where we take a brand new game. We unleash a trainer to help learn the game, and also at the end of the game, if you've participated that night, you can get 20% off, which has been really cool to help build our board game group here. On the opposite Tuesday of having the board game showcase, we're doing legacy and campaign style games, so that's been really helpful to help find time to do some of these cool legacy games. We're going to shift gears now to collectible card games.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We're all veritable experts at CCGs.
Yeah, we played an event last night.
Well,
we did play
before
events,
you humiliate my skills at Magic, Kyle, Kyle and I played Two-Headed Giant for pre-release last night. It was interesting. I will give my magical, really. So you want to play with magic, right? Okay, so
God.
Don't laugh. I love Katy Perry.
I know you do. I know you love.
I'm a whimsical man at heart.
I know.
That's one of
Katy
my
Perry, if
favorite
you're
words,
watching,
by the way.
please retweet us. And
Katy Perry, if you come to
comment.
Cheyenne, we will give you a star show.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And a free soda pass.
Free soda
Free
pass.
soda for
and
you.
a copy of Shadespire.
Oh, and absolutely, yeah. And we'll all sign it.
Yep, it'll be autographed. You'll get a prime show. If you could do at least one song for us live, that would be friggin' amazing.
Is this
Right?
like a podcast version of like whaling, where basically we're just fishing for celebrities to
Right.
come on?
It's like, please, anybody remotely famous, come talk to us. Anyway,
Don
back
Knotts, come
to
down,
Ooh,
please.
Don Knotts.
He's
back
dead.
to MTG.
The corpse of Don Knotts. Or the ghost of.
Respect.
Do we have like a local celebrity that only is known here, but we'll pretend it's a big deal?
Yes. But
Now I'm insulted them, so we'll have to wait a while before we bring them on. Yeah,
we definitely
I'm
have,
not going to say any names.
We definitely have like people who are actually like local celebs and stuff, though, right? Like
We do.
yeah, I mean, like they're published comic artists.
Yeah.
Like that's. I mean,
That's
to
a
me,
big
that's
deal.
pretty-
Yeah,
That's a big deal. It's a BFD.
Yeah.
But we're getting a little off topic.
Okay, sorry.
Let's
So
get back
back to
card
Magic.
games.
So I wanted to give my perspective of somebody who doesn't play Magic, who played Magic last night. I had not played a pre-release or any Magic since the Cons of Takir pre-release, so it's been a little while. But I'll be honest, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I love the art in the cards. The Vampire Conquistadors are my new favorite thing in the world. They're just
great.
awesome. So fantastic work, Wizards. The art in this set is just great. I like a lot of the abilities. I didn't know what most of them did, or understand how to use them, or even remember how many cards were supposed to be in my hand. But I had a great time.
Your opponents are
as
just
Did
like,
someone-
better than I would have done.
As someone who does play Magic, at least semi-regularly, I don't proclaim to be like a hardcore Magic player, but I play, and I do have some decks. I'm mostly a Commander player. It was awesome to watch CJ play, because it was like playing with someone who had never played before for the very first time. It was just like, do I do this now? Okay, we do that. All right. How many cards do we draw? It was like, do we draw on the first turn? It was like, oh man. Honestly, it was a good
I
time.
don't know these things. You know, I'm going to put this back in Warhammer terms because that's what I know. And Thousand Sons is my favorite army. I'm like the squad sorcerer.
The really
like
shitty one.
I'm like the one that can only do one wound with smite. And I'm in a 5-man squad, not even a 10-man squad, so I don't even have a good special weapon in my unit.
Right, like it's just basic shit and one.
And
smite.
I'm with Magnus because all the good sorcerers went with Airman during his rebellion with the rubric.
Right.
So for the people that are super nerdy out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm like the bottom barrel of the sorcerers of the bottom barrel of the sorcerers, and that was me playing Magic.
It was great to watch.
What about Pokemon?
Oh,
Pokemon. So yeah, I mean, we had a Pokemon event yesterday.
We did. Not gonna lie, it was a little stressful.
regional.
It was a regional, regional Pokemon event.
It was awesome. We had great players, great judges.
Yeah.
We loved having them here.
They were really
It was
fun.
way busier than I thought it was going to be, so we were scrambling to actually get extra chairs and
Yeah,
tables.
so, yeah,
which is a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. We've never had a Pokemon event go over like 12 people for that kind of event. So, we kind of planned it expecting kind of that to be like our max, more or less. And then it was like, oh, just kidding, 27 people. So we had a ton of people. We had folks drive all the way from Pueblo, Colorado, which, for those of you not familiar with the geography, is like a 4-hour drive to us, which was really, really cool. So I appreciate all those guys coming out and playing Pokemon down here. We thought they were awesome. We'd love to host them again, this time with better planning. So yeah, better planning, more Pokemon packs, not have to get, tables next time, so it'll run a little smoother, I hope. That was definitely cool. And the rest of this weekend, of course, too, has been the Rivals of Ixalan pre-release, which is it's been
Which, if
pretty
you
good.
happen to be listening to this right now, can they listen to this live? No, they can't.
No.
Then never mind.
Are we live? I don't know.
Well, no,
Are we
they-
live? I
they-
don't know.
Yeah, they'll be listening to
there's
it
no
right
red on-air
now.
buttons.
But here's the thing: they'll be listening to it right now if they're listening to it. So no matter
Because I was going to give a shout out, like, come down and play today, but then I realized we're not live. And
Yeah, come down
Well,
and
they
play
can
today.
still
like-
come down and play today.
yeah, you can
yeah,
always
you
come
can
down.
you
and
can
play
come down
today.
and play today as you're listening to this.
That's true. That just blew my mind.
You could come down and
Inception.
play.
Past
Like
CJ
shit here.
is telling you to do something as future CJ, and it just blew my
Technically,
mind.
it's present CJ is telling you to do something.
Yes.
Because
Holy shit.
You're not past you yet.
Sorry, we can fix that in post. That just blew my mind.
No, this set is amazing. Like the inner 8-year-old in me loves all the dinosaurs.
I mean,
I'm
if
like
you-
bouncing in my chair, like dinosaurs,
if you-
dinosaurs.
Yeah, right. Like if you don't love dinosaurs and pirates, you should go get a CAT scan because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Your head's broken.
You have to really seriously evaluate what
So
went
this
wrong in your
version,
life.
of Magic has dinosaurs.
Yes.
This
yes.
set of magic, you
Dinosaurs?
pleb.
The,
It's not a version
Pirates,
of magic, for God's
Magic
sake.
the Gathering is foreign to me. But
Do I know more about magic than
You
GM Drew?
absolutely
You
know
do.
more than GM Drew.
you do.
Well, I now know, everybody, that you do not draw if you have the first, was it turn?
Nailed
This is
it.
so good.
Nailed
So,
it.
whatever it is, you roll
Pro
the
Tour,
dice.
here we come.
As long as I have Kyle to play my deck, we stand a chance.
Wizards of the Coast. He's waiting for his invitation to
Honestly, yeah.
regionals.
Honestly, and like when I play Magic like in tournaments, I generally only play what's called limited formats, which is where basically you're playing a sealed event or a draft. So you're not bringing a deck to it. You're getting the cards there at the event. And then for me, I feel like they're the most fun to play in tournaments. But honestly, we didn't do terrible. We won 2 out of 3 games. Like that is way more than I ever expect to win when I play Magic.
I was
because I don't play
shocked.
that frequently.
Because that last game we got pretty low and we still won, and I was surprised by that. We got to like 8 life.
We got beat up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of Magic, I wanted to talk about WotC's new policy changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also want to drive on WotC's new
That
policy
they-
changes.
they put in-
They're pretty deep.
Do you
When
wanna,
did these come out?
Do you want to introduce it, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely introduce it. So this is, I want to say this came out like on Friday. And for those of you who don't know, Wizards of the Coast has been kind of making a big push to make play spaces safer for players and stores and organizers. And what I mean by that is not like putting in bulletproof glass or anything, but to make them less harassment.
They're not turning it into like
environments.
a Indian run 7-Eleven. Like
No, I
not
mean
with a
it's,
bubble.
we're not. Yeah, we're not. Wow.
Way to go.
Was that offensive? I'm sorry.
We'll cut that in post.
We'll fix it in post.
Ain't cutting anything.
Nice.
Sorry, I work in prisons. We don't do PC. If anyone's listening at work, I'm really professional, I promise.
So that kind of goes with this whole.
So right, yeah, like you'd be one of the people that WotC would want to cut out of the play space.
It's a good thing they can't, because I own stuff.
Well, interestingly enough, that is like literally is part of it, like this, so they could, right? Like they can now cut you out of the play spaces, even as an owner, in some ways. So anyway, to kind of jump back on track with their making play spaces safer, they released new guidelines, which are in effect for all stores in what's called the WPN, or the Wizards Play Network, and that basically the WPN is essentially their organized play program. So like if you run D&D events, or if you run like Friday Night Magic or Magic the Gathering tournaments, you're going to be in the WPN. And now you have to sign their new agreement, and it's got a couple kind of, I guess, hot button issues in it.
Caveats.
Yeah, right. So there's essentially 3 different little sections that all fall under what's called Section 15. And they're all common sense things that I feel like most stores probably already do, or at least do in some form. But basically, one of them says you can't have sex offenders working for you, which I can't imagine there's a lot of game stores out there who are like, yeah, I see you're a sex offender, but I like your availability. So I feel
you can work on Tuesdays.
Right? Yeah, like I feel like there's not a lot of stores doing that. And if there are, they're probably not going to be open for long. So you can't be a sex offender and work in a WPN play space, which right.
It's kind of common sense.
Seems
to
like
me.
common sense. I think the more
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here in a minute, but keep going.
Okay.
Here comes prison, CJ.
Yeah.
Right. The more I guess kind of interesting topic is that Wizards of the Coast now requires stores to do full background checks on all of their.
Play devil's advocate on that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Full background checks on all of your staff, including the owners. So I do have to run a background check on myself. I'm excited to find out what I'll learn. So full background checks on all of your staff, the owners, and anyone who is involved in the play space. So that means magic judges, your dungeon masters, and that's kind of where it starts getting ambiguous, because there's kind of an implication that WotC would like you to background check literally anyone running any kind of event in your store.
And I'm going to question the legality of this, right? Because for people that are coming in that are volunteering to play games, I can't just randomly run a background check on someone. They have to consent. And what if they say no? Like, take California. California has just passed recently. They went into effect this year. They just banned the box. Employers can't ask if you have a felony anymore. So I'm wondering how this is going to work in states like that have said you cannot ask someone if they have a felony conviction as a requirement of their employment.
And that's a lot of people are talking about exactly that kind of stuff. And that's what makes it kind of a touchy issue, because it's an interesting enforcement, and there's a lot of interesting stuff about what is the legality of this, but like they're literally making us sign a contract that says we will do this.
Here's my 2 cents. I think it'll go on until somebody sues them, and I think somebody will sue them over it. I really do.
I mean, it's a
someone's going to challenge it.
It's a pretty big snowball issue. Like
it is.
The more you enforce it, the more it starts rolling downhill faster, and it can
right.
Really
So
just run things
and this
over.
is, I mean, you want to talk about an issue here that, let's say somebody did have a felony that owns a game store. You're going to say they can't sell magic when, according to, and again, I do work in prisons, that person has paid their debt to society. We have said you have done what it takes to get square with us as a society, and now we're going to put another thing on you that says, oh, by the way, you can't vote. You can never own a weapon. Now, by the way, you can't even own a game store and sell the main product out there.
I should put in a caveat. They're not saying you can't own a game store or work in the play space if you are a felon. It's only for specific crimes, which essentially are violent crimes involving children,
which
or sexual offenders.
Which is a good thing
to some degree, right? But again, if they're out, we're saying that we trusted the system and it worked. I mean, otherwise, theoretically, they're still in prison.
Right, and this is part of the dilemma, right? So I think...
Because in Wyoming, you could have, you could be 20 and have slept with a 17-year-old girl consensually, and you could never work in a Wizards event ever again.
Right.
Which to me is just absolutely absurd. Like, I'm not. By the way, I'm not condoning sex offenders working
Right.
this.
Let's be really clear. None of our employees.
But there is a small little window for a gray area for that.
Absolutely.
Like say, I mean, for instance, your example.
Yeah.
It's not terribly like the age difference isn't there. It's just there's that line.
There is a line, and to me, it just. I mean, one of the things with the business I do, and this is definitely not what I thought about talking about in the podcast, but I'll throw it out there, is that, right, part of the goal of our justice system is to get people reintegrated into society and get them involved again. And the more barriers we create to having a successful reentry in society makes it harder for those folks to be successful. And that's one of the key reasons people keep going back to prison.
Right.
So
let me change tracks here for just a quick second, but still keep kind of on the same subject. So a big part of this that a lot of other stores in our community and people that I've talked to are kind of having pushback with is just the actual physical, like, running the background checks.
There's the actual financial
right.
cost
So
too,
financially,
right? You take everything else out.
Exactly.
It costs money.
Right. So financially, if you're not aware, a little bit of quick research, which I'll do a little shout out. John Stevens, owner of Total Escape Games in Denver, did this research for us. But a little quick research. It costs on average about $20 to run a background check in any state if you don't need to run a federal level background check. So assuming your state has a Bureau of Investigation, which most states do, you can usually get that background check for about $20. If you're going to the national level, it then jumps up to $55. So that's essentially for people who are registered as sex offenders in not your state. So as I understand it, ostensibly you'd want to run that $55 check on basically everybody.
I mean, I see background checks run on people every single day, and I can just tell you a state background check essentially means nothing.
Sure.
Because I could have literally just gone across the border in Nebraska and murdered somebody, and it's not going to show up in Wyoming.
Right, so you're basically, you need to run that
you need to run the federal to be serious about it.
And then, so you're looking at roughly $55 a person. We're talking quite a bit of money, right? We have 5 employees. We have 5 DMs. Like, already I'm at a point where I don't want to spend this money.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot, right?
And if we add new DMs, then now we have to literally consider, okay, are they good enough? We want to run this. If we give them a test night, here's a legality question. If we just give them a test night, does that mean we have to run the check before we even give them a test game?
It does, yeah, right. So according to basically the way they've worded this, and this is all online, you guys, if you want to take a look at it, you can go find it. It's not difficult to find. But the way they've worded it, yeah, like if you were going to have them running any kind of event in your store, and then, like I said, this is where people are starting to get kind of a little bit frustrated because it's almost so ambiguous that they're more or less saying anytime someone is running an event in your store, not necessarily even a Wizards of the Coast event, right?
Yeah,
not a WPN event, but like they're saying like they're implying
Am I going to
that,
stop a game and be like, sorry, sir, I need to run your background check before you can run this game?
Right. They're implying that, if somebody's going to run a board game demo, we'd have to check them. Or if somebody's going to run a Warhammer tournament, we'd have to check them. And that's...
Right.
It gets to a point where it's so nebulous that it just, I think, is self-defeating. And, there's a lot of issues with enforcement here, too.
There's a huge issue with enforcement. And here's one of the things that I think is that if you're going to a quality game store that's a nice environment with good owners and good staff, I feel like, right, if it's a good environment, you should trust them that they're going to have good people and they're going to deal with any issues.
Well, I mean, you can't always trust them. Like, I'm playing a touch of devil's advocate. You can't always trust them because, again, you'll never know what happened in someone's background.
Yeah.
But and I agree that this was done in a good spirit.
I think it was met with a good intentions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I condone not background checking or anything like that. But what I'm saying is I think the execution went off half-cocked. They were like, yeah, let's do this now.
And I don't think they thought about a lot of the practical
No, and they
implications
didn't.
here.
Yeah, they didn't think about all the avenues that a small business owner has to go through and get kicked in the groin just to uphold this to sell.
And again, if I'm in a state with the ban the box rule that passed, like California, how do I implement this?
Yeah, right. It's tough.
Yeah,
I think you have to then at that point. It comes down to local legality, and I don't know. Well, we could talk about this for hours and hours.
Right,
it's a complex subject.
Yeah, if anybody would like to come in, I'm here almost every single day of the week. If anybody'd like to come in and chat with me about it, I'm happy to chat with this. Also, for I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're fine.
For what it's worth, guys, just so you know, we will be running background checks on all of our employees.
Yes.
And all of our event organizers, assuming that they consent to have a background check run on them. So.
Also, put down in the comments what you think.
Let us know.
It's an
interesting issue. Like, I'm tentatively for this idea. Like I like the idea of a safer play space for everybody, and I like the idea of kind of looking a little bit deeper into people who are running events. We generally vet everyone who runs events for us anyway. This is just a little different way of doing it.
I'm not in favor of these at all, but please know I'm not going to intentionally ever hire a sex offender. I'm not going to hire someone that has a violent felony or something involving kids, but I don't like the implementation of this rule that forces us to do it.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I think Prison CJ would agree
Prison CJ would agree about what?
that this is a bad idea.
I think it's a very bad idea on multiple levels. Yeah.
Okay. Pretty serious topic, but important one.
Yeah, that was not necessarily where we intended to
I don't
go.
like serious.
It got kind of heavy in here.
Yeah. You didn't know you'd be listening to the great questions of the justice world on this podcast, did
Right.
you?
So I looked up possible nerd stuff coming out this week. The Blade Runner 2049 DVD's out this week. I haven't seen it yet, so
It's like 4 hours of movie. Like
Is it long?
It's super long. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I know
it?
the runtime. Yeah. So we almost did this as a showing for the shop, and then I looked at the runtime and I was like, nah, no way. This would be like-
I saw it. It's really good.
I
a
believe
great
that it's
movie.
good.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, visually, it's gonna be really stunning at least, right?
A lot of the remakes are kind of frustrating. They kind of like have little nods throughout the thing to the original film, and then they're like, and then we throw it away,
Right.
and they just kind of go on their own tangent. Is this like that, or
It's not a remake. It's a sequel, right?
Oh.
So this is think more Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, but not complete garbage. Like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Alien Skull is like a raging dumpster inferno, whereas this is actually supposed to be pretty solid. Like
Okay.
everyone that's seen it likes it. I think the only complaint people have is that it is long.
Okay.
Like it is a lengthy movie to watch.
all right.
but Blade Runner is pretty lengthy.
The original Blade Runner is like 3 hours too. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're both lengthy.
Speaking of lengthy,
Oh.
we got to wrap this up.
Oh,
Well, that too.
real quick, what is our next showing, Kyle? Is it
Our
Black
next showing is
Panther?
Black Panther. Yeah, that's
Which
it.
I'm super excited for.
Yeah, Black Panther's gonna be
It
rad.
looks awesome.
Yes.
So we'll have tickets on that. Do you know when those will...
Tickets for Black
we've
Panther
ordered them,
are
right?
probably by the time you're listening to this are very possibly available.
Yeah, they should be
They
available.
should be on their way soon.
Again, it's messing with my mind thinking about future CJ telling people this, but...
So for the viewers who don't know, they do a showing where they basically rent out a movie theater and you can come in and buy tickets.
We do.
Well, sorry, we. You're right. We. But it's you putting in most of the work. It's both of you putting in a lot, like 80% of the work on this. We just sell the tickets.
Sure.
But yeah, you can come in and buy your own, basically private seating, and private showing is what.
Yeah,
I
it's
meant to
basically
say.
it's a showing for essentially us and our friends.
Yeah.
We control and
'Cause
sell
you're
the
our
tickets.
friends.
We buy every seat. We also do trivia before every single movie. We give out gift cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Give
you
it free
really get to
money.
watch. Essentially, you get to watch your nerd movies without Muggles, which is
Yeah.
nice. You know, you don't have like random like Muggles who are like uneducated in the ways of nerd.
Yeah. All right, we're about to get run out of here by the janitorial staff. All right.
Our own Legio Custodes.
Legio custodian. Yeah, come down to the shop this week. Come hang out with us. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out. Come play some games. We have Age of Sigmar Winter League starting. So if you're not into Age of Sigmar yet and you want to get into it, it's a great time to get into it. Yeah, come down. I'd love to see
Starts on
folks playing
Thursday,
games. Yeah.
whatever that day is.
Thursday, whatever the day.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one. Take
See ya.
care.